Subscribe now for our extensive video library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom.
John Maxwell says, too many leaders have a destination disease. I think he's right. Too many of them think, when I get to that level, when I get to that location, when I get to that title, when I get to that promotion, then I will have arrived. And they're completely wrong. They've forgotten that they actually have an assignment, and it's not about them. That's what I want to talk about in this episode of Leading Leaders. Stay tuned.
Master the Story Power method to captivate your audience, improve workplace culture, and 10x your fundraising.
Scan the QR code to book your first coaching call or visit storypowercoach.com.
Subscribe now for access to our extensive media library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom. Begin your personal growth plan at storypoweracademy.com for leadership development and communication skills training.
I'm Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast. The day I walked into the little boy's bathroom and I found my mother down on her knees scrubbing the urinal, I asked a very key leadership question. Not because I knew what I was talking about, not because I had any idea where I would be 35 years later, but because, well, I was curious. And turns out, not only was the question worthwhile, but the challenge the question presented was life-changing. The question was, what are you doing here? Let me clarify that. What are you doing here? Why are you doing that? I dare say, if I ask that question of enough leaders, there's going to be a large percentage who simply don't know the answer to that question. In fact, their answer to that question might be, well, I'm here because I was told to be. I'm here because this is where the job is. I'm here because this is my next step in my evolution. I'm here because this is all they pay me for. Maybe you've heard some of those vocational leader attitudes where they say things like, well, if they would pay me more, I would do that job. But they're not going to pay it, and I ain't going to do it. That's not even in my job description. Well, it's good enough for government work. All of those things are addressed in the attitude hack, and I want you to take a look at that when you get a chance. But more than that, what I want you to understand is that too many leaders view themselves, their leadership track, their leadership responsibilities, the job description that they have, through the lens of, this is my personal journey. This is my personal destination. There's that destination disease again. And they forget that somewhere along the way, they have an assignment. They don't view leadership through the lens of saying, I'm here for a reason. I'm in this place to do this thing for that reason. Seth Godin says, people like us do work like this. And when we forget what people like us are, leaders, communicators, influencers, when we forget that that's our responsibility, then we also tend to forget that other people need from us something other than, something more than reaching our own goals. People need from us as leaders insight, input, direction, encouragement, empowerment, opportunity, correction, guidance, direction, insight, mentorship. Our job as leaders isn't just to get the next promotion. Our job as leaders isn't just to arrive at that pinnacle as the SVP, the CEO, the whatever. I can tell you many people that I've encountered in the world of leadership, they lead small organizations or they lead large organizations. They lead nonprofits. They lead multi-billion-dollar organizations or political firms. And there's something about this sense of ownership and entitlement that says, I've worked my way to XYZ level, whatever that level is, and I have a right to the next level. In fact, I have ownership where I am of my space, of my time, of my job description, of my title, of my privileges, of my authority, of my power to decide. And yet, as long as I hold on to that, I'm also kind of owed the next level of opportunity. As long as I stay here and I don't fall back, give up, go away, find another job, as long as I do this job, biding my time, paying my dues, meeting the expectations and obligations of this world, as long as I do that, then I can look at next. There was a short, I guess it was a short film is what you would call it. It was probably 8 to 10 minutes long. And it was an interview process of a young woman who came in to interview for a job. She'd been in the company for years and years and years. She'd had several opportunities to be promoted and just kept getting passed over and didn't know exactly why. And then she got a promise. She got a commitment from the head honcho. And he said, in the next go around, that's your job. I'm going to all but promise. I can't give it to you right now, but the next time that position is open, you're the perfect candidate for it. You've got loyalty. You know what you're doing. You've got great scores. You've done everything necessary. That's your job. And then just before the opportunity came for that leader passed away and his son was elevated into his position. And very quickly, the elevated son brought his own team around. Not the loyal, not the proven, not the dedicated, not the ones who had earned their stripes, paid their dues, served their time. Not those people. No. Kind of in a nepotistic way, he brought in all his buds, all his pals, all his golf buddies, all the ones that are ride or die friends of his. They knew nothing about the company, many of them. Or so you presume in this 8-minute video. And she was cast out. She was kicked to the curb yet again. It didn't matter how good she was at what she did. Her right to move up didn't exist. Now, the real challenge is if you're wrapped up in the kind of leadership perception, your own way of viewing the world, that this is about my personal destination. This is about my goals, my income, my resume, my retirement, my pension, my next step looks like, then you might have one or two options in this scenario. Number one, you just bite the bullet, you bite your tongue, you bite your cheek, you stomp your feet in quiet, you take your lumps, and you keep plowing away at the same job you've been doing all this time, and you force yourself to get over the fact that your loyalty to the company isn't met with the company's loyalty to you. This promise that was made by someone who no longer has the ability to fulfill it is not as good as the paper it was written on. This opportunity for you to flourish is not owed to you. So get over it. Let it go. Or you can say, I have the right to that next promotion. And so I'm going to leave. I'm going to go find another job. In fact, I'm going to go find another job that's a competitor of yours. I'm going to tell them all the things that I've done here that are wonderful, and I'm going to expect them to bring me in at the next level up. I'm going to go get promoted to the next job by taking another job. And I'm going to tell you what the challenge is with both of those. In both of those scenarios, and I've worked with people where I had to lead people who were in that place. One of them thought he was going to get the job that I got, and so he took one route, staying in the job, intentionally sabotaging my efforts to do the job a different way. Making promises that he would take care of a customer in a certain way, that he would stay late and get work done, that he would make sure that the projects were started early the next day. Made promises, never delivered on them. And his intention was never to deliver on them. The promises were less than vain. They were intentional deception. Now, you could choose that route. You can stay put and say, I'm going to wait my time. I'm going to wait them out. These people, these imposters, these newbies, they've come in. They're just going to wreck everything anyway because they don't know what I know. So I'm not going to give them the data. I'm not going to give them the information. I'm not going to give them the inside scoop. I'm not going to equip them and empower them to do my job better. No, I'm just going to stand back and watch them fail, or maybe even actively, intentionally sabotage them. So that's one path. I've worked with those people. The other path is to say, I am just going to leave and run and hide and be even more bitter and even more disappointed when I get to another place and I don't get that next level job. I'm going to be even more bitter, more hateful, more cranky, more frustrated with my life because I should have been a VP by now. Just this last weekend, I was around a bunch of young people. I say young, probably on average 15 years younger than me, some of them as much as 20 years younger than me. In fact, the CEO of the organization that we were supporting this last weekend, was 29. And according to the bio that I read when he walked on the stage, an 8-figure earner. I didn't make 8 figures by 29. I haven't made 8 figures close to 59. It's really easy to get jealous. It's really easy to look at that and go, what did I do wrong that I don't have the opportunity to make that kind of money? What did I do wrong that I wasn't given that leadership role? What did I do wrong? And so now it becomes a self-reflective, self-negative, self-sabotaging. You're not sabotaging the people that are walking in that path. You're sabotaging yourself, which means you'll never walk in that path. Because when you begin to do that, either sabotage those who are walking in that space or sabotage yourself because you're not walking in that space, the inevitable happens. There's something about that attitude that allows you to sabotage yourself or others. It's like the smell of yesterday's garbage. It just reeks emotionally, energetically, in the stories that you tell, in the way you respond to questions, literally, physically, emotionally, in the way you show up. Sometimes down to the place that you sabotage yourself subconsciously to such a degree that when you show up, you're not doing the work right. When you show up, you're late. When you show up, you look disheveled. When you show up, you don't look like you care about the job. When you show up, you don't feel, think, respond, act, perform even as good as you did before you lost the promotion opportunity. You're not even on the same plane. You're below where you were before because you're self-sabotaging at the same time you're sabotaging others. There is nothing good to come of that path. But if your view of your leadership role is that I've got to get mine, I've got to get my promotion, get my raise, get my title, get my position, get my paycheck, get my pension, get my retirement, get my. If you feel like you got to get my, and that's your view of your leadership role, you're already in trouble. Behind the 8 ball, so to speak. You have to change that perspective. And here's what I want you to consider changing that perspective to. Change that perspective to ask yourself, what is my assignment? Not my next promotion, not my paycheck, not my pension, not my next job, not my next raise, not my next vacation. All that's part of the destination disease. What is my role? What is my job? Why am I here? What am I supposed to do? Here's a trick question for you. Who am I supposed to serve? That one's a hard one. It's not only a hard one to answer, it's a hard one to accept, especially as leaders. Because as leaders, we often believe, I've reached this position. I don't care if it's the fry cook at a fast food restaurant, or the supervisor on the night shift, or the manager in charge of 40 people on the floor, or the first level, mid-level management where you're not actually doing the job anymore, but you are reporting all the job that's being done up to the C-suite. Or maybe you've even made it into the C-suite, like a junior VP or a junior executive, maybe a director. And suddenly you think, I'm here because all those people have work to do and they need to report to me. And it's easy, especially when you're young in leadership. And sometimes people get promoted for nepotism's sake or because they've got a great education. You know, a salesperson does a great job in sales numbers. They get promoted to sales manager, and all of a sudden they think, I'm the manager. Woe unto the nation when the slave becomes king. That is not going to be a good process. But that person gets moved to that management role, that sales manager, that VP of sales, without the maturity to walk in that role. Go back and look at our last episode, and you'll see how that character becomes a huge issue. But see, part of that viewpoint of leadership to say, I'm here to serve. You need to spend some time with you. You need to spend some time with your job description. You need to spend some time with your org chart. You need to spend some time with your company's vision and mission statements. Even if you own the company. Even if the whole thing is just you and one or two contractors, a couple of vendors. That's it. That's all that's there. And ask yourself this same question. What is my assignment? Why am I here? Who am I supposed to serve? I'm going to tell you, those three questions alone will kick you in your belly if you're not careful. And if you answer them honestly, they're probably going to bring you down a couple of notches. When we allow ourselves as leaders to see our next step, our next role, our next promotion, our next moment as the thing that we live for, as our purpose, as our reason for being, we fail ourselves and everyone else. Pride goes before a fall. When you reach the level as a leader that you believe that your accomplishment, your title, your success, your income makes you untouchable, you just touched yourself, and it wasn't a Midas touch. When you begin to believe that my progress toward my end game, my accomplishment will be fulfilled, I mean, look what I've done already. When that kind of notion sets in, remember, this is self-sabotage. Most of the time, that kind of feeling is subconscious. Those kinds of thoughts, you don't verbalize those. You don't go around to your friends and go, look at me, I've arrived. I just got a pay raise. You don't go out into the world. What some people do. Let me correct myself. There are people who get a bit of a pay raise. I mean, a little pay raise. I don't mean they got like 3x their last paycheck or 10x their last paycheck, or they, had a close on a commission check and got a $500,000 commission check. It happens. There are people like that. I've had times when I had a $5,000 or $6,000 commission check and invested it in something, bought something that wasn't in my normal budget. It was extra money. And I spent it really fast. I didn't invest it. I didn't buy like Bitcoin or gold or silver or anything. I bought a truck. I bought a motorcycle. Those are the kind of things that I've done. Why? Because I didn't have anybody in my life to go, that is a bad choice. Not bad that you have the thing. Not bad that you have the extra money. But there are much wiser ways to spend or invest that money. It could have multiplied by now. It could have had babies. It could have been money making more money. Money planted in the right place multiplies like rabbits and cockroaches. Money spent on frivolous things, those things disappear. That material that goes away. And when it does, that's like seed thrown into the wind. That's like eating all your seeds. Pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, whatever. You eat the seeds, there ain't going to be no orchard. But that's what a lot of people do. And when your view of your leadership, when your perspective of your success, your accomplishment, your next level, when it feels like that pride that goes before a fall, it usually looks like a Lamborghini or a sports car. It does. It looks like I've got it all figured out. I don't need anybody to tell me. But when you step back for a minute and you go, hold on, what am I really here for? Who am I supposed to serve? How should their life be better because of my presence? Those kick in the belly kind of questions. Those are between you and you. But when you ask those questions and you answer those questions legitimately, and it changes the view of the leadership role that you have. I'm here on assignment. It's not about me. It's about the people that I'm supposed to serve. It's not about me and my accomplishment. It's about the overall good of the organization, the society, the culture, the people. And again, if you're a team of one, you still have an assignment that I promise you is outside yourself. It ain't you. Your assignment ain't about you. It's just not. I know you don't like to hear that. I don't like to hear that. I'd like to think that all the things that I pour my effort into is about taking me to the next level, opening up doors of the next opportunity. It's not. It's not. My purpose here isn't that. If it was, I failed at that a long, long time ago because I have not been very intentional about that. But I can tell you there are a whole lot of people that I get testimonials and reviews and phone calls and emails and text messages in the middle of the night when an aha moment strikes them and they're like, somebody said so-and-so and then such and such happened and then they did this and they did this. And all I can think through my mind is when you said, and I'm like, yes, they got it. It dawned on them. The aha moment happened. The seed that I planted in that diligent conversation is beginning to sprout and take root. And now it's like waving in the wind and looking for the sun, and it's growing, and their life is going to be different because I took the time to plant that seed. That's my assignment. That's what I'm here for. That's what I do. People like us do work like this. And when I show up, not for my own aggrandizement, when I show up for the value I can add to other people, when I show up and live out my assignment, it's so much more fulfilling. It's not that self-sabotage that looks like a sports car. It's not that self-sabotage that looks like sourpuss on my face. I think it was Zig Ziglar in his book Over the Top said he was having a conversation with a lady one time and he said, "So do you ever wake up grumpy?" She said, No, I just let him sleep. She was unwilling to admit that she is grumpy, the look on her face. Zig's also famous for saying, if you're happy, tell your face. Because most of us walk around with a little bit of a scowl because all the garbage going on inside our head. We're thinking to ourselves, how do I get to the next level? How do I pay the bills? How do I? What if how do I is not about you? I mean, it could be true. And if it is it affecting your daily execution? Are you going about the tasks that look like your work, look like your job, look like your job description with the heart, with the motivation, with the internal drive, with the intentionality to say, win or lose for me, win or lose for my paycheck or my pension, win or lose for my promotion? If I do my work to the best of my ability, everyone I'm here to serve will be better off for it. If you can change your view, politicians have this problem. People in ministry have this problem. People who have what we would call basic menial jobs have this problem. People who serve fast food, people who collect the garbage, people who work on cars, people who put out traffic cones. They all have this same problem. When I get me focused, I lose sight of the ability to impact the lives of other people because I'm only worried about me. Look, I want to be as clear as I possibly can about this without being a Debbie Downer. If your view of your leadership, if your view of the opportunities that you've been given, if your view of what's coming next is about you, you probably ought to let that go. I'm not saying don't focus on yourself enough to improve yourself, to get better, to be more diligent at your job, to better understand what your job is and what skills you need to improve on to be the best in the world at your job. That is not what I'm saying. What I am saying is, if you still believe as a leader that the world is supposed to bow down to you until you get your next accomplishment, you missed it. Back up a step or two and ask that question. What am I here for? What is my assignment? Who am I here to serve? If you'll take time to answer those 3 questions, you can dramatically improve the quality of your life. And let me tell you something else you may not expect. This is so radically true. When you are living out your assignment to the degree that you can forget about whether or not, and I don't mean completely abandon the concept of, but be so laser focused on, I'm living my assignment, I'm serving the people I'm supposed to, I know why I'm here, and I know what I'm doing. If you can get that to the top of your mind, if you can focus on that first, there's some kind of inner joy that's as powerful times 10 as the self-sabotage that says, why didn't I get? Why don't I have? Why does somebody else get that? What do I do to get what they have? The minute you realize your purpose, your assignment is serving others, the meaning in your life skyrockets. The joy in your life skyrockets. Your blood pressure, it'll go down. Your heart rate will probably go down. You'll find some chill and some peace that you didn't know existed. When you live in your assignment, when you live in that purview that my leadership is about others and not about me, you will change the quality of your physical life as well as your emotional life and your leadership life. It's not easy. It takes discipline, but it can be done. The first thing you got to do is shift your perspective. It's not about me. It's about everybody else. I'm Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast, or Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day.
Think storytelling's just for bedtime? Nah, it's the secret sauce for business magic. Stuck in a rut with bland pitches and yawning clients? Enter Boost Your Business with Story Power. 6 weeks of epic storytelling training. It's like leveling up in a video game but for your career. Master the art of narrative and watch connections blossom like a viral TikTok. Simple, impactful, and game-changing. Ready to transform your biz vibes? Dive in now and make storytelling your superpower.
This 6 weeks guided program is specifically designed for those people who say, I know I need to tell stories. I need to tell better stories because the ones I have are boring or they're not getting across. Or as John Maxwell says, everyone communicates and, well, few connect. Now, as a participant in this course, what I would really love to know from you, put it in the discussion on the course if you're already registered online. Send me a chat, send me a DM, send me a text, send me an email. I'd really love to know what you hope to get out of this course. Now, I can tell you what we're going to discuss, and I can tell you what I plan to teach and train you on, and I can tell you even what we plan to discuss each week on the calls for the next 6 weeks. I'm going to go over all of that for you in just a moment. I can also tell you that my clients who get the greatest success are the ones who apply the Story Power process to their business development to increase their impact, their influence, and their income. Now, the Story Power process includes story mining, story selection, story qualification, story crafting, connecting with your audience, and leading the narrative. And if you leave any one of those parts out, you're going to find that, well, you're just not as effective as you want to be. You're not going to grow your business to the same level. You're not going to lead with impact and influence like you hope to. I can also tell you that the people who apply these things, well, they're not failing in their business. The reason a lot of people fail in their business is they continue to fail to connect the solution they offer with the problem that their clients have. The pain and the solution never come together. And a lot of that failure is because they're not clearly articulating how their solution solves someone else's problem. It comes down to a question something like this: who do you help and how? Yes, that's one of the first things we're going to discuss over the next 6 weeks of Boost Your Business with Story Power.
Master the Story Power method to captivate your audience, improve workplace culture, and 10x your fundraising.
Scan the QR code to book your first coaching call or visit storypowercoach.com.
Subscribe now